welcome to the Hail Mary, the GPP NFL podcast. I'm Big Ed League 42. Here talking about some plays via Scott Mailwig at Sports 25 to Life. He broke down some of his favorite targets for your GPP action this week on FanDuel and DraftKings. And he starts off with Andrew Luck from the Colts. Obviously, week one, we saw Andrew Luck struggle against a really tough Bills defense that, outside of some garbage time scores, shut him down for nearly the entire game until it was too late. But this week, he's got himself a much better matchup against a soft Jets secondary, and he ended up putting him in a decent line after those garbage time touchdowns late in the game. But the thing with Andrew Luck is recency bias. People are going to be off of him, and it's great because we're looking at this matchup against the Jets defense that has allowed 22nd in effectiveness allowed to quarterbacks last season. But they were decent against the pass overall. Got a 27-point team total, though, for the Colts here. And this is a team that's going to need to get a win here. This is a big game for them. Certainly can't start off this season 0-2. And we know that the type of skills that Andrew Luck has. And whether T.Y. Hilton suits up or not, I don't think that matters a whole lot. Dante Moncrief saw 11 targets last week. So this is certainly a situation where Andrew Luck can get things turned around. And you got to imagine his ownership is going to be really low. People bailing on him after the first week and looking elsewhere. So Andrew Luck, great GPP play for this week. Next one, Aaron Rodgers of the Packers. People see this matchup against the Seahawks and they just instantly look away. But a lot of people trying to pay down at quarterback. Guys like Carson Palmer, Tyrod Taylor, maybe again. Whoever they may be looking at. A lot of cheap guys around. So Scott thinks that paying up at quarterback may be a contrarian way to go, and I tend to agree here. And this is a Seahawks defense that was very, very good against the pass last year. But Aaron Rodgers and the Packers have a 26.5-point team total. Cam Chancellor still holding out, losing a lot of money in the process. But obviously, Aaron Rodgers is happy to see that. So with Cam Chancellor out, this defense gave up 34 points last week to St. Louis. So this huge upside for Aaron Rodgers, especially if this one turns into a shootout. 49-point total in this one. You absolutely need to give him some looks this week because you got guys like Nick Foles last week. Week one had a big performance against this secondary. And we even saw Stedman Bailey going out and trolling a little bit on his Instagram account, talking about Richard Sherman, about him being the best corner in football. So check that out if you haven't seen it. That's a pretty funny little Instagram video he put up. And next up, DeMarco Murray facing off against his old team, the Dallas Cowboys, for the first time. Obviously, this game, highest total of the week, as I'm sure you know by now, 55 points. Team total, 30 points for the Eagles here. And he only had 9 yards on 8 carries in week one. But he had 2 touchdowns near the goal line. I'm sure he's going to see more carries, and Scott is as well. And this is the Cowboys team that was 22nd in effectiveness against running backs last season. And Murray may not be the every down back because there are Ryan Matthews, Darren Sproles, some guys in that backfield that get some involvement in that offense as well. But this is a high-paced game. Murray, he dominated the red zone looks last week, and you got to imagine that he will once again. Going against his former team, division rival, big game. Got to expect DeMarco Murray turns things around, and he still ended up with a decent performance last week because of his dominance in the red zone. So even if he doesn't see 15, 20 touches, this is a guy that's going to see scoring opportunities in this high-paced game. So I like that call a lot. Next up, pair of Bengals here. Jeremy Hill, week one, he didn't run a ton as far as yardage goes, but he had a great production. Scored a couple touchdowns against the Raiders, but they really didn't need him to do a whole lot. This game was 33-0 midway through the third quarter, and Andy Dalton and Tyler Eifert really got a goal in there, of course. And this is a guy that the Bengals are going to be relying on. Giovanni Bernard, a lot of people talking last year about how this was going to be a timeshare. Jeremy Hill stole the job from him. This is not a timeshare. This is Gio is a change of pace and third down back. Jeremy Hill is the every down back. And Scott thinks he's going to get around 25 touches. I tend to agree there. And 47-point over-under. This is the guy, Jeremy Hill, that we've seen some huge upside before. And this Chargers defense did not do too well against Joique Bell and Amir Abdullah, especially the open field. So if Jeremy Hill can get in the open field here, which you imagine he will be able to against an average defense and Chargers, then he should be in line for a pretty nice game. And with a lot of high volume, that's certainly another thing you're looking for in your GPPs. A.J. Green from the other side, he was a guy that was underowned last week, dropped a touchdown pass, could have had a great performance. I was one of many that had probably more exposure to him than I would like to admit, but Had he caught that touchdown, it would have been a solid performance for him. But either way, A.J. Green coming in here this week, facing off against the same Chargers defense, of course. And in that blowout, I mean, he didn't need to be targeted a whole lot. Saw 8 targets in that game. But we got 25.5-point Vegas team total for the Bengals here. And this Chargers defense, as Vegas is agreeing with us here, this is not a defense to shy away from. And A.J. Green, one of the elite receivers. And, I mean, it was only 1 week, and it was against the Raiders. But Andy Dalton did look good in week 1. So if he and A.J. Green can connect, if this game stays fairly close, then you got to imagine A.J. Green's going to be a big part of the Bengals pulling away, hopefully, by the end there. And should be low-owned because, I mean, this is a guy that's not quite priced at the elite receivers, but talent-wise, he is an elite receiver. So definitely give him a look. Odell Beckham, another guy who was a letdown week 1. Didn't see as many targets as we'd like. He saw 8. Really disappointing game for him. But now he faces off against an Atlanta secondary that is just simply not very good. We saw Jordan Matthews have a nice game against them last week. Saw 13 targets, and you got to imagine Julio Jones, Antonio Brown, going to be the popular plays, as Scott writes up here. And obviously, swerving from these guys is an effective strategy in your GPPs. So looking away from them makes sense. You got a 27-point team total for the Giants. And, you know, Beckham is the focal point of this offense. And you got to imagine there's going to be running room for Rashad Jennings as well, which is going to open things up. And this was the 31st ranked defense against wide receivers last year. And Odell Beckham, Scott's got him anticipated less than 5% ownership. And I wouldn't be surprised to see that at all this week because of all these other big names that everyone else is targeting. So we know his type of upside. Eli Manning relies on him quite a bit. And you got to expect this one's going to be a shootout as well. So great target there. Brandon Cooks for the Saints. Huge team total here. Drew Brees is going to be a popular play, but could be a viable strategy to go with one of his wide receivers and not pair him with Brees and a couple of your GPPs there. Of course, Drew Brees does a great job of spreading the ball around, but you got 28.5-point team total. This is a team coming off an embarrassing first week loss. They're at home against a Tampa Bay defense that got shredded in week 1 by Marcus Mariota in his first game, 4 touchdown passes in the first half. So Brandon Cooks is a guy that can take one to the house at any time. He got targeted, like I mentioned, 8 times in week 1. He's a guy that certainly has upside, and Drew Brees is going to be relying on him. And, I mean, really the only concern here is that the Saints are too good and this game doesn't stay close. But if that does happen, you got to imagine that Brandon Cooks got involved in the passing game as they pulled away in this one. Next up, a tight end, Martellus Bennett. Obviously, everyone with Gronk finally being on the Sunday-Monday slate, everyone's talking about Gronk, and Jason Witten, some other guys. But Martellus Bennett's a guy that had a good week last week. And, I mean, you got guys like Tyler Eifert, Austin Safarian-Jenkins, who are going to be really high owned. So guys like Martellus Bennett are going to fly way under the radar. Alshon Jeffrey, it looks like he's on the wrong side of questionable now. And you've got Eddie Royal, somewhat banged up. Looks like he's going to play anyway, obviously, but may not be 100%. So Jay Cutler, his safety blanket of Martellus Bennett is a guy that has big upside. He could see a ton of targets this week in this game against Arizona, which is a good defense, a lot of short passes, which works out perfectly for Jay Cutler and his passing style. So if you want to swerve off of the popular tight ends, cheap, expensive, whatever they may be, Martellus Bennett makes a lot of sense this week. So that's going to wrap things up. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Check out the rest of our great NFL, MLB, college football content at dailyfantasycafe.com.